Thiago Motta's Bologna currently sit 4th place in Serie A and are just 3 points away from accumulating as many points as they did in the entirety of the 22-23 season. So ladies and gentlemen, as we do in pretty much every single one of our analytical videos here on the channel, we're going to be delving into the tactics, explaining why they're so good, why they're so effective, and also looking at some of the individuals that make Thiago Motta's Bologna such a special team. Bologna set up on the surface in a 4-2-3-1 or 4-5-1. But despite having them 2 or sometimes 3 central options, Ferguson, Fabian, El Azuzi or Ibisha often being the trusted players, they actually have a lot of rotational duties within the midfield. The individuals that play them central positions, some of the names obviously I've already mentioned, are given a lot of autonomy and freedom to pick up so many different positions and move very, very fluidly. For example, if we look at the heat maps of the 2 deeper midfielders against Hellas Verona and Remo Freuler and Giovanni Fabian, we see they're not limited to only being present within the first phase. In fact, they actually commit to attacking the pockets of space that Motta's very wide attacking setup opens up. Remo Freuler started 21 matches for Bologna in the league this season, and in doing so, sees himself sit in the top 10.9% of Serie A defensive midfielders for touches taken. He also averages 55.34 passes per 90 with a 90.2 pass completion rate to complement them high volume of passes. For me, having a lot of players and a lot of players in central areas that are very much so not only comfortable with having the ball fairly often, but also comfortable at being effective with minimal touches is absolutely huge to any Thiago Motta system, because this man absolutely loves having the ball. Bologna have the 2nd highest average possession in the league and the 2nd most accurate passes per game in the Serie A this season. As I said before, this man just absolutely loves to have the ball. This then kind of moves us on to the main part of this video, discussing the build-up and attacking play of Motta's team. And for me, this kind of segment is what really does separate Motta from the rest of the managers and sets his tactics out as something that is very much so his own. A few years ago, Motta made headlines for saying he wanted his team to play in a 2-7-2, with the goalkeeper actually seeing himself become a midfielder. However, it's also very important to note that, for me, I believe that this kind of idea of the 2-7-2 was not meant to be interpreted like any other formation is. You know, when we see a 4-2-3-1, we imagine the back 4, 2 in a double pivot, 3 kind of attacking midfielders / wingers, and then a number 9. But I feel like the way Motta wanted this to be displayed was actually from left to right, therefore stating that he wants to have 2 wide players on the left flank, 2 wide players on the right flank, and then 7 players in the middle third of the pitch, making that remark about the goalkeeper being a midfielder a lot more understandable. Thiago Motta said himself, "For me, the attacker is the first defender and the goalkeeper is the first attacker." Now, what does that mean? Well, to be fair, in modern football, I think a lot of teams kind of have this same identity. You want your striker to be pressing from the front, and a lot of attacks now do begin with the goalkeeper. I mean, for a modern day coach to go out and sign a goalkeeper that cannot ping passes across the pitch and isn't comfortable with the ball at his feet is pretty much an anomaly nowadays. And this idea that is very, very common, as we already said, across the majority of footballing sides, definitely translates to Bologna. When building out from the back, Thiago Motta ensures his side are very, very deep in order to drag a high pressing line out of the opposition. This image here shows us the 2 centre halves are actually directly in line with the Bologna goalkeeper, and the 2 midfielders are just outside of the 18-yard box, ready to receive and play. But why does he set his side up this way? Why are they so deep? Why are the centre halves so far back, and why are the midfielders coming so deep to receive it? Well, this isn't the first time I've noticed a kind of similar tactic, and it's something that I believe is coming alongside the new generation of coaches. We've touched on it before with Kieran McKenna's Ipswich. There'll be a link to that video in the description if you want to check that one out. But for me, this type of build-up is basically a side building their own transitional moments to escape a press. Bologna keep a large amount of their possession within their own half, completing just under 12% less forward passes than the typical Serie A side, yet still completing an average well over 100 passes more per 90 than the average of sides in the division. This high volume of passing in the deep phases does then cause for the opposition to have to step forward and obviously try and disrupt what they're doing. But as a result, that creates different pockets of space and different areas for Bologna to really exploit, and as we mentioned before, create them isolated attacking scenarios. Specifically though, with Motta's system, he also ensures the width is exploited properly due to the talent he has in the midfield areas and in 1v1 positions in the wide areas. Now you may be wondering why I mentioned midfield areas and the width. Well, for me, I think a lot of what Thiago Motta wants to do is he wants to have his midfielders picking the balls up in them half spaces, in the pockets, and actually driving the ball forward as well. And when you've got wide players being as wide as they are, on top of almost these self-inflicted transitional moments that Bologna go and create, then it does create a lot of different gaps in the opposition's defence as they scramble to try and recover, try and just stop whatever Thiago Motta's got his team doing. However, despite my comparisons to McKenna's first phase play and build-up, there is one elephant in the room which entirely separates Motta's tactics and really does highlight what makes him so different: his incredibly unique utilisation of his centre halves. As we see in this frame here, the player in the middle of the pitch is actually the right centre half. He stepped up from that right centre back position and joined the pivot, therefore creating half space options for either the central midfielder to use, as Ferguson is doing here, or for a winger to come and step inside into the half space and one of the midfielders to go beyond him, as on the far side opposite to Ferguson is also happening. And although it wasn't successful in this phase of play, this specific clip here, it often does allow for Bologna to consistently create the perfect passing angles to make sure that their forward passes are very successful, precise, and picking out the right players. I love Joshua Zirkzee movement. I'll pull his heat map on screen right now, but I really think his ability and high technical level to operate in so many different areas of the pitch is so important for this direct, I say that loosely, transitional movement from the first phase. But it's not just Zirkzee that I'm a big fan of. I think Zirkzee's been a well-renowned player for a very long time. Everyone knows about the talent he's got. But some player that I've not heard too many people talk about, and someone that I've actually grown to really like from my studying of this Thiago Motta system, Giovanni Fabian. I really like seeing the young 21-year-old in that kind of central midfield / number 6 position under Thiago Motta. The almost inverted / overlapping / attacking centre half movement does push the midfielders further on, and having a midfielder like Fabian, who is pretty sound in all parts of the game, is a really nice thing to have. He's got 6 goal contributions from 9 starts in Serie A, sits in the best 12.3 percentile for least times dispossessed per 90 in the division, and wins just over 50% of his duels. So for a player born in 2003, it tells me he already has a lot of kind of different areas to his game, and at just 21 there's no way he can't develop to become the perfect Thiago Motta player, because I really do think a central midfielder playing for Motta, well, obviously you've got to have a proper number 6 next to him, which I think Bologna do have, but the player playing against that proper defensive number 6 does need to be able to do a little bit of everything. But to revert back to my comments earlier on the build-up play of Bologna, I find it interesting how they complete so many passes, average so much possession, yet I don't actually think their players have that many touches. We've already kind of touched on the fact that a goalkeeper is very important to this system, you know, creates numerical advantages against the press, steps up nice and high to join the centre-backs, is another midfielder, but what I find interesting is the fact that the Bologna keeper actually sits in the lowest 25% for most touches per game by goalkeepers in Europe's top 5 leagues. He's taken just 33.86 touches per game this season, which, to be fair, it's not incredibly low, but considering kind of this theme that we've followed through about having the ball, you'd probably expect it to be fairly higher. However, I don't want you to look at this and then also look at the fact that I've said that they do kind of like to do them transitional moments in the first phase of play and just assume that Motta lives for having transitional moments and hitting teams in the break, because that would be completely wrong. In fact, I actually think that this stat and the stat of majority of these players not actually having that many touches, to me, suggests that there's actually an incredibly high level of technical ability required to play for Thiago Motta's Bologna. Because for me, playing 1 or 2 touch football, especially under the pressure that they create for themselves, is so hard for pretty much any player at the top level to do. So the fact that they're having minimal touches yet still dominating the ball, still completing so many passes, for me, again, suggests that there's a high level of technical skill required for this team, even when looking at the goalkeeper. Now though, as the title of the video states, Thiago Motta for me is Europe's next top prospect. I really think his tactics are incredibly interesting, and as shown by the fact his Bologna side are on track for a Champions League place for the first time since 1964. These tactics also seem to be fairly effective. However, as I worry about all managers not playing at elite clubs and playing at clubs that maybe aren't taken as seriously by the lower sides, I really wonder how he adapts and how he adjusts when he's playing against a low block every single week. But with the kind of the talent and the stuff he's displaying at Bologna, I don't think it'll be any time before we see him playing for a top club and breaking down low blocks every single week in Europe's top 5 leagues. So if you have enjoyed today's video, ladies and gents, please do leave a like and subscribe. First time we've ventured out of England for a little while on the channel, but if you have enjoyed, as I said, leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.